Hello, everyone. This is Celeste Zell, and I'm here to tell you about Chronos Academy. I'm excited. This is my first Facebook Live presentation. So we'll see how it goes. Thank you for watching, and I am excited about this new format, making the best of our shelter-in-place situation here in Marin County, California. It's been a good, hard, but fun transition for our students to do classes online this week. So we have a micro school. We have 25 students this year, and we'll have up to 40. And so it's been really exciting for them to get to use their computer for Meet hangouts together and do presentations on that format for each other. And have discussions. They've had to learn how not to interrupt each other. Anyway, it's been a lot of fun. And a good hard learning curve for us too. So Chronos Academy, just to give you a little bit of the history, we used to be Golden Gate Learning Center, and we still, operate under that name a little bit for tutoring and other services like that. And then, but over the course of the 15 years we've been tutoring, when students have approached us to do homeschool classes, we have put some classes together for them. And those few classes sort of grew and grew more numerous, and then eventually became it became clear that it would become a nice integrated full curriculum. So 3 or 4 years ago, we started Chronos cohorts, and we began writing a 4-year curriculum, and I'll tell you more about that integrates history, science, math, literature, philosophy, art, all the subjects, and offered a full repertoire to our students. And then this year, we took the plunge and became a private school. So we're a micro school because we are intentionally small. Our classes are 8 at the max for elementary, 12 at the max for middle school. And that way each student can do presentations several times during the week and making projects in our workshop. So I'm going to tell you more about that as well. So first I'm going to tell you kind of the bones of our program. The philosophy behind it is the classical model of education called the trivium. And if you're in the education world, you probably know more about this than I do, but I have just seen it work. It kind of makes sense to me. So they say that children learn in 3 stages. Well, all of us really are learning in 3 stages anytime we learn something new. So, for example, if I was going to learn how to crochet, I would start with learning, the names of the stitches and the rules of how many loops and when to yarn over and all of this types of thing. And then I would practice it. Right, and then eventually I would finish a project, maybe a little blanket, or if I was really ambitious, a hat or something, or booties. So that first stage of learning is called the grammar stage because it's just learning the grammar or the vocabulary of the field or the material. So children supposedly learn best or focus on this type of learning, from, I don't know, birth through about age 9 or 10. So elementary students are really absorbing tons of information and get a kick out of it. They like knowing, knowing what to know, and it makes them, feel accomplished if they know something that the big kids are learning or whatever. So just, I think part of it is that they haven't really established what's normal. So they're researching and collecting all this knowledge. So my 3-year-old is memorizing songs, and she's even memorizing what phrases to say when. But my 9-year-old still is too, right? So he so really enjoys knowing tons and tons of information. So then the dialectic stage, so I would say my 9-year-old's really close, and he's kind of on the cusp of transitioning, but that's called the argument stage, where they're really processing the information, and the who and the what, is not enough for them. They want to know the hows and the whys. They want to connect events together, and they want to understand, how things fit. Why, how World War II stemmed from the end of World War I. That's what we're studying this week. So they're really trying to process these knowledge. Debate is really important in this stage. So it's roughly those middle school years. So, around 10 or so until around 14 or so. Then the third stage of the classical model is the rhetoric stage. And that's when, it's not enough to have the knowledge and understand it, but they also want to do something about it. So these students, and generally high school level students, are wanting to make a difference. They're wanting to convince people to change. They're writing to their congressman, or they are publishing PSA, public service announcements, to try to get people to change their behavior and make a difference in life. So those are the 3 stages, and roughly our school follows those 3 stages. So right now we have an elementary program and a middle school program. We'll be starting a high school program within the next year. And our elementary students do a lot of memory work. Not just memory work, but they enjoy it, and we challenge them to memorize tons of information in 7 subjects over the course of the year. So times 34 weeks is really a lot of information. Our dialectic students are doing some debates. We're doing a model UN this week, because the UN, the United Nations, stemmed from World War II. And our high school students eventually will be applying the knowledge to our current state, to the state of the world, the state, what can we learn from World War II that would affect our decisions and the way we treat other nations today. So in that sense, we are really honoring the students at these 3 different levels. How do I get it to go on to the next slide? Oh, there we go. I found it. I have to click. Here we go. So our weekly schedule, each day is different. And part of the reason is we came from, these various homeschool classes and got into the rhythm of doing a lot of classes that meet once a week. So our schedule is not really like a traditional school schedule. But I'm going to talk about each day for you so that you kind of understand how it works. On Mondays, we call that our quest day. And we have this tool that we've created, inspired by Dungeons and Dragons character sheets, for students to build their own individual learning character, right? So the character that they are applying in their own lives. So we meet with each student one-on-one on Mondays, and we review their accomplishments as far as these three areas: knowledge, skills, and classwork. So the knowledge on the left column section, those are the 7 subjects that they can memorize. So we work through a timeline from 8000 BC to the present each year, and we encourage students to memorize about 6 events per week. And if they do that, then they'll know the whole timeline by the end of the year. And we have a fun medley song that helps them do that. Then each week we have a history focus, just a couple of sentences, a summary of the history event that we are really focusing on. For geography, they're memorizing the countries of the world, and then each year kind of an extra thing, either cities or physical features or the states and capitals. In Latin, they're memorizing vocabulary, and sometimes that's Greek. We're doing 2 years of Latin and 2 years of Greek. English is English grammar, so they memorize the prepositions, the coordinating conjunctions, the different structures, different patterns of sentences, very helpful for understanding grammar and diagramming sentences. Then in science, coordinating with our science focus for the week, they memorize a science law or list, something that's useful in learning science in high school, probably something that they would use, and math especially. They memorize a formula or a definition that they will use in their math career, their math education. So then the middle section is skills, and we're working with them to develop character, you know, how to respect others, how to offer forgiveness if someone has offended. So we want to reward that and really honor that and encourage them in those areas. Readiness is being ready for a class, being those executive skills that we talk about a lot. Collaboration is how to work with others, how to be a mentor and a protege, how to be a good group member, a partner. Scholarship is curiosity. In fact, my husband Daniel's here with me, and he is so big on rewarding curiosity and not squelching it, and how curiosity drives education. So maybe we'll hear more from him in a few minutes about that. Engineering and design, of course, we have a workshop, and we do design for laser cutter, 3D printing. We do some coding classes. Those are kind of extracurricular enrichment classes. For math, we often use Khan Academy since it's so individualized. So we want to reward them for their units at their grade level on Khan Academy. Language skills, we have a Spanish class, or some students are doing another language. We have a music class, and then PE, kind of skills, speed, and strength. Anyway, then in the right column, we have our classwork. And these are awards that the students can earn. So like they can earn the Apprentice 6 award for doing 6 assignments in any given class. So for Math Club, those are explorations that are based on our mathematician of the week. So they're always difficult, and the students typically explore them together. And when they've completed 6, they get an award. And when they've completed 12, they get another award. So I'll talk about each one of those classes in the coming slides. Before I finish, on Mondays, we also do an extended PE time. We do a cultural PE class. So we play some kind of a game or do a dance or something from the country that we are studying that week. And then we usually do that at the park across the street from our location. And then group challenges in the afternoon are designed for the parent presentation, which is at the end of the session. So students kind of can plan their own presentation. Sometimes it's something that they create or something that they perform. Okay. Tuesdays is our launch day, and I have an example of what that might, of a handout that we would give them of all the topics for week 9. This was modern week 9. So each Tuesday we cover 7 subjects. You see the memory work is here on the sheet for history, geography, timeline, English, science, math, and Latin. And then the literature, they don't memorize, but we read an excerpt from our literature for the week. We do an art project, and we usually have an artist, but this week was about Africa. So we wanted to do masks, and of course those are anonymous artists. But our musician or our composer was Eric Satie. That's a really fabulous piano piece. So, you know, our elementary students would memorize all this information using motions, song, chant, different mnemonics or pictures. We do some sign language. We have a lot of fun. Our middle schoolers are encouraged to try to memorize it, but they do a little more discussion-based learning. Of course, everyone does geography on a map, and English, at least 3rd or 4th and up, do diagramming, which helps them to really understand the English. And then we do on Tuesdays like a shorter 30-minute science exploration and a 30-minute or so art project to introduce the art of the week. So Tuesdays are sort of a fire hose of information. The biggest thing for Tuesdays is the presentation. So students would take one of these topics and come up with some good research questions and do some research on our website or online on their own, and do a few, you know, through 2 or 3 minute presentation for elementary and a 5-minute presentation for middle schoolers for their classmates. So every week they are teaching each other, and they get to kind of pick and choose what they are interested in digging deeper in. Wednesdays, we have, I said Wednesdays is digging deeper. So Wednesdays and Thursdays, we have 4 classes each day. The Wednesday classes are here: writing club, math club, art appreciation, and make science. So for writing club, they write, this is, they write a historically based essay. And this handout that I've put on the screen is from the Institute for Excellence in Writing, which is the approach that we use. And there are 9 units that we cover in the year. And these are 9 skills that the students are trying to learn. So the first unit is just how to take notes and make a keyword outline. And so they practice that for a week or 2, and just that. And so it's kind of a Suzuki style approach that then the skills build on themselves, so that they're practicing all the skills and using them all in a variety of writing scenarios. So unit 2 is called writing from notes. So they're learning how to write a paragraph from a keyword outline, so that they are learning how to form sentences from just the basic information. Kids are so tempted to copy sentence structures when they do their research or try to summarize. And we think this is a really important step along the journey, is how to form your own really interesting sentences from those notes. So then we learn about the right side of this chart is descriptive or fiction writing. So then in unit 3, they retell a story, probably a story that they know pretty well, and they summarize it in 3 paragraphs using a story sequence model that's just simply characters and setting. And then the second paragraph is the conflict, and the third paragraph is the climax and resolution. So then it switches back and forth. You can see from sort of fiction writing to nonfiction. So in the 4th unit, they're summarizing an article, and I'll show you an example of that from week 9. So they learn how to pick and choose their the key facts, the things that they think are the most important to include, and summarize a longer article into just a short paragraph. Then we do writing from pictures, which is a lot of fun. It's kind of a fiction, same story sequence, but the pictures are getting their minds rolling so that they can create their own story from that. And then we do a multi-paragraph essay, and so on. And we end the program with a formal critique that incorporates, kind of links the two together so that they are summarizing a piece of literature and analyzing the author's use of stylistic techniques. So it's a lot of fun. But let me show you kind of how that works. So here's an assignment from this past fall from week 9, and our topic was the scramble for Africa in history. And it's when, you know, Africa was sort of opened up and the European nations were racing to colonize different parts of Africa. So we started with kind of a brainstorming. Well, actually, let me show you the article. So we started with the article, and it's a long article, and their challenge was to create just a 1-paragraph summary from that. So here's their keyword outline template, and they had to choose, you know, just eight facts, and they were limited to just 3 to 4 words per line. They could put symbols or abbreviations, but they couldn't, you know, copy the sentence structure. And then after they did that, they wrote their paragraph and graded themselves with this rubric. And each week we have this type of a checklist. And it started really short. And then we added a stylistic technique each week throughout the year. So by this time in the year, our checklist has grown, you know, pretty long. So they're encouraged somewhere in their paragraph to put a strong verb, a quality adjective, one of the 5 or so vocabulary words that we've given them for the week, an ly adverb, a who-which clause, a because clause, and a number 2 preposition opener. So eventually we add a lot of different openers so that they vary the way they start their sentences. Instead of starting the sentence with the subject each time, that it kind of so that they sound the same and they bore the reader a little bit. They can make their sentences really interesting just simply by starting with a prepositional phrase or an ly word, you know, an ly adverb, or an ing participle, or a subordinating clause, that, you know, something like that. Then at the bottom we had decorations, alliteration, or a conversation, and those were extra points to include in their paragraph. So it was a lot of fun. So that they're even creatively writing something that's nonfiction, something that's based on an article, but they get to stylize it, you know, and add really creative structure and syntax. Our second class on Wednesdays, and they, you know, the students rotate in age groups, so they may not have the classes in this order, but the second class that I have listed here is Math Club, and each week we do an investigation based on the discovery or the contribution of the mathematician that we're focusing on that week. And of course, that mathematician lived in the same time period that we are studying in history. So Bernhard Riemann, a very famous, did a very famous calculus discovery or contribution, and so he started Riemann sums, and that's just simply finding the area under the curve, which is the integral in calculus, but by using rectangles or trapezoids or any shapes, honestly, and to estimate them. So instead of doing a very complicated calculus calculation, you can just find all the y values at these given points, which is what I've done here on the chart, and find the area of the the rectangles that they would form. And of course, when we did it, we formed rectangles to the right and we formed rectangles to the left, you know, and so we overestimated one way and underestimated the other. And then we averaged the y values in pairs to create sort of either midpoint Riemann sums or trapezoids. We happen to be the same answer since our widths are all the same. And anyway, the kids got a kick out of doing something that they wouldn't normally do until they reached calculus. So that was a lot of fun. Of course, we do focus on math at their grade level too, and we monitor that on our Quest forum and in tutoring and on kind of a one-on-one basis, since they're all in different places and in different paces. But this was a lot of fun for everybody, and it was hard for everybody, and it was new for everybody. So it was cool to see how the story of math kind of came together. For students that kind of don't understand why we need to know math, this really helps because we're studying the people who created it and the entire overarching story of how it came to be in the state that it's in. You know, the math that we have right now, you know, it didn't just appear one day miraculously in textbook form. It was a lot of people that were thinking and playing and solving problems that they were experiencing in their different situations. So that was a lot of fun. Our third class on Wednesday is art appreciation. We always do something historically based. So this week we were doing the Scramble for Africa. So we did African masks. We looked at a lot of, you know, authentic pieces that are in museums and created our own and talked about, you know, how and why they would have been created. And then in Make Science, we studied the Bone Wars. Daniel, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So I always look at scientists who make a discovery, and it's possible that you know, that there's a good story there, almost always, and there's definitely a good story in week 9. The early paleontologists actually got into a pretty heavy-duty conflict over who had the most bones discovered, the most different dinosaurs discovered, to the point to where they destroyed their entire lives together. There was such conflict, and as we learned about that story and its fascinating and lurid details, such as blowing up each other's paleontology sites and things like that. We also took really accurately scaled models and accurately scaled models and assembled the skeletons themselves. They are
in miniature,
but accurate in scale to one another. And so it was a lot of fun to discuss and see some of the things that they needed to.
All right. So let me tell you about Thursdays. Thursdays we have 4 different classes that help us kind of dig deeper into our topics for the week. We do 2 years of Latin and 2 years of Greek. This is a picture I just got from a student asking a question about her Latin homework. So they just legitimately learn the grammar of the languages, and people ask us why we think it's important to study Latin and Greek, and we believe that, you know, it is part of the repertoire. So many of the people that we are studying learned Latin and Greek so that they could publish their books in the lingua franca, so to speak, of the day. But also being the kind of the father of or the mother tongue of our own language, it really multiplies the vocabulary, the English vocabulary, not only English, but French and Spanish and Latin vocabulary. Knowing the etymology or the history of the words is really impactful in studying new languages, plus grammar. So understanding the universal grammar and how it works, the different tenses and different cases, helps them in learning any language. So we have a lot of fun, but it's, it's tedious. It's kind of like take another skill like math or reading or writing. It's something that students do a little bit each day, and then they can really see the progress. So another skills class is Euclidean geometry, and Daniel has taught this class for many years.
Much longer. Yeah.
His favorite class, I think, right?
Yeah, no question. So Euclidean geometry is, goodness, well, it's one of the oldest. It is, as far as I know, the oldest math textbook we have.
From Euclid.
And it's from Euclid. It's from just after Alexander the Great conquered most of the known world at the time. And Euclid was the librarian at the Library of Alexandria. And he compiled, using all the resources the library had available, compiled an immense amount of mathematics that had been discovered at the time. And it was almost exclusively geometry. And it was all constructible. And so one of the things that we value a lot is really recognizing what children are capable of and thinking about at their age level. And young children, I would say well into their early teens, really have a benefit for concrete activities in their learning. And there's something very concrete about constructing a shape or a relationship that is mathematical. And so we do that once a week. We sit down and we work through one of his postulates, one of his propositions, and we prove it. We think about how it's proved and why he went about it that way instead of a maybe shorter way. And so it's a lot of fun. It's very analytical, but it's also very beautiful. And oftentimes we find ourselves with a little extra time and we can color it in.
Yeah. Okay. So then our third class is called Make History. We use a curriculum called Story of the World, and it's in 4 volumes. And this is really the backbone of our curriculum. So we take a chapter in Story of the World, and that's our history focus each week. And so from that, we choose our scientists, and we choose our artists and our mathematician and even our composer and our literature. So in Make History, we study the chapter, we take a quiz on the chapter. Susan Weisbauer does a fabulous job. These are, these read like novels, these wonderful history books, but also we make a project which really makes it more memorable. So in the workshop, we make a weapon or a model or a toy or some sort of experience. Sometimes it's food, so we make something that reminds us of our history. I can't remember what we did during week 9, the African scramble. Oh, we did a laser cut topographical map of Africa.
That's right. We made it like a puzzle.
Yeah. So we were stacking the points and kind of understanding which parts of Africa were more desirable, and I was based on it. Our 4th class on Thursday is book club, and this is a picture from one of our classrooms. So this is a book club presentation. So students get to choose a book that's sometimes a historical novel or sometimes a piece of period literature that they can check out and read at home, and they're challenged to do annotations so that they're learning how to read critically, read analytically. So they're looking for imagery and allusions to other literature, good vocabulary, similes and metaphors, key character descriptors, whether the characters are static or dynamic, point of view, different things. So we build our repertoire of annotation lists, annotation ideas, and then keep a journal of our reading. So they check out a book, and then they get to present a little bit about their book and what they've noticed in it. But also we read a book as a class. So, now that we're studying World War II, we're reading Diary of Anne Frank. And our younger class is reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So that the time period that we're studying has more meaning to them, because there's no way to convey the culture or the feelings that the people were experiencing during these major events in history. Okay, so now we're ready for Fridays, and Fridays are different throughout the year. When the weather's nice in session 1 in the fall and session 5 in the spring, we do outdoor hikes. We do some sort of a making activity on location while we're there, So sometimes it's digging dikes or or panning for gold, or something that helps students remember and process what they've been learning. Some nature studies and some nature journaling. We have such fabulous resources here in the Bay Area. Sessions 2 and 4, we do museum field trips, and those are a lot of fun. Of course, we have so many good museums here, but we've been to the Museum of the African Diaspora. I think maybe week 9 we went there.
We went to the DeYoung.
Oh, you went to the DeYoung because they had masks.
They had masks.
Oh, we went to that other museum another time.
Yes, we did.
So that's cool. We're getting ready. Well, we were planning, I should say, to go to the DeYoung to see the Frida Kahlo exhibit, which is she's one of our artists at this time in the year. And then during session 3, which is January and February, we do a play. And this past January, February, we did The Sound of Music, which was so fun. We're kind of into music, but I'll tell you about that too. So that's the schedule for the week. And this slide I came up with, because these are the things, I don't know if it's everything, but the ways we have seen kids successfully learn something and retain it, right? So they make it stick. And we do that through music. We do a lot of music, through making, through presentations, and through integration, right? So I'm going to take you to our website and show you an example. So we have a music tab, and that was a picture of me and Daniel. But of course, we have a music tab at the top, but I'm going to show you the week 9 page. So this was our history topic, the Scramble for Africa, and the history sentence that we encourage students to memorize. Of course, there's links in here for each of these key people, places, etc. And the Berlin Conference is an event. And our chapter focus for Story of the World. But then we have a lovely song to help students remember it.
After gold was found in Australia in 1851, that Kelly and the bushrangers robbed the rich. They fought against injustice then in 1901. Australia became a British Commonwealth. King Leopold of Belgium took the Congo Basin for his own African Association. In the scramble, European nations divvied up Africa at Berlin Conference in 1884.
So we have a lot of fun recording those. We work with an excellent producer in Nashville, Fleming and John, if you want to look them up. And John Mark Painter does a lot of work for different bands, and he's done a few film scores. He's really great. And they've done their own album, Fleming and John, and love them. So we have a little song for each week, and that, you know, we get it in the students' heads, and that helps them sort of remember what they've been learning. So anyway, here's all the memory work for the week. Here's our timeline song that I was telling you about. It's about 17 minutes or so. Our timeline focus for week 9 was down here with these links. And here's some articles or documentaries that we found on Khan Academy or other excellent sources on YouTube for our science, for our math, for our art. And here's our composer for the week, a video of his work. And then you can see the lesson plans for each class. So here's the Tuesday launch day, presentation ideas, the writing assignment that we were doing that session. We do a large essay each session. Here are the 4 classes for Wednesday and the 4 classes for Thursday. And our PE the PE that week was this silly game from Australia, the Australian trolley, but I think it was raining and we didn't get a chance to do it. As well as our Friday. Oh, he said that they went to the De Young, but maybe that was the Friday before. So there's that. I'd love for you to check out our website for application information. And all of our music is available to stream or to play, you know, online here, or you can buy an album at our store. So not all of the music is finished. We have an early modern album that's finished, and we're working on the modern album now. And the others will be coming. So feel free to check those out. Here's the modern. Please send me any questions. I'd love to tell you more about our school and sign your student up for a shadow day so that they can try out a shadow day or 2 and see if we're a good fit for you. We have a lot of fun, and we feel really lucky to be in this line of work.